Have you ever wondered how you can hard play a level 6 for free and still destroy your opponent's board? Well, wonder no longer, because that's exactly what we're talking about in this week's deck profile for Meta Three Musketeers. Let's talk about it. What is up, Tamers? Welcome back to the other decks. My name's Casual Dobo, and today we're doing something a little bit different. We're not talking about weird janky decks. We're talking about meta. Now, originally when I was looking at BT6, I did have a pretty wonky, but I still think pretty cool idea for 3-color Three Musketeers, which I'm still obviously very excited for. I was going to participate in a tournament, and it was with a bunch of other content creators. That tournament's still going to go on, so look out for it in January. I'll give some more details later on. But originally, I wanted to use this, mostly because a lot of the content creators in there have more subs than me, and I couldn't just go in with jank with the sub count I have, because then they'd be like, oh yeah, it doesn't make sense, blah blah blah. So I was like, yo, I gotta show out. So I built this, and honestly, it's very good, it's very fun. It's a little bit nerve-wracking and a little bit hard to pilot the first couple times around, but once you get into the flow of it and sort of overcome some of those fears of giving too much memory, then this thing works like a dream. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so here's the deck profile, and to start us off, let's go into the Digitama, aka the Digi-Eggs. Starting us off, we do have 4 copies of Digimon, the boy, the golden standard. This is undulation trigger, draw 1, trash 1. It's just really powerful to be able to cycle through your deck and pick and choose what you want to put into your trash, and just give us a little bit more control over what's going in there, just because there's a couple of different things that we want to see in our trash. Namely, 7 cost options and 3 Musketeers if needed. But we have 4 copies of that. Next up, we do have 1 copy of Craniamon. This has the inheritable when you trash a card from your hand using an effect, such as maybe, the Demi-Mera over to the side, we get to trigger draw 1. I wanted to mostly just keep it at 1 of, just because there's only a few effects that trash cards from our hand. Wanted to make sure that we got the more valuable egg first, which is Demi-Mera, and then Craniamon. But I did want to get 5 eggs, just because I do want to be able to have the ability to draw. Going into our rookies, we have 3 copies of Impmon from BT2. This says on deletion, trash top 3 of your deck, and this is once again just an incredibly good way for some early aggression, right? Swing it into your opponent's security, get that first one out of there. Ideally, it dies, which at 1000 DP it should, and then we can trash top 3, and then hopefully there's a couple more 7 cost options, some 3 Musketeers, and if not, it just means that we're getting closer to that good stuff in our deck. Moving on, we do have 2 copies of Digimon. This one says that on all turns, your opponent can't gain memory except from tamer effects, which is awesome, especially since, in Gabu Bond, there is Hammer Spark, there is Reinforced Memory Boost in yellow, and just because in North America, the starter decks came out, and all of the colors now have some sort of memory boost card, Digimon and all memory blockers like it going to become extremely vital moving forward in the meta. Moving on, we do have 2 copies of Labramon. Once again, on play, trigger draw 1, trash 1. So it's good to get a rookie out onto the field if you don't have, an egg available for digivolution. And once again, just extremely valuable to cycle through our deck and choose what options we want to see in our trash. And then lastly, rounding out our rookies, we do have 4 copies of BT6 Impmon. On play, we can trash a card in our hand, and then if we do so, we can return a Digimon with 7 Great Demon Lords or 3 Musketeers in its type from trash to hand. So this is our primary way of getting our Beelstarmon back, just because this deck truly operates once Beelstar is up and running, and you can play her for reduced costs. But if we accidentally milled Beelstar into our trash, or for some reason we had to play Beelstar early and she died, this is a great way to get Beelstar back. Or if you're trying to get Gundramon, you can get Gundramon with this card as well. Plus, the trashing of the card from our hand activates Tsunomon's ability, and depending on what we have in our hand, can do a couple of other different things. So BT6 Impmon, very important, play it at 4. Alright, moving on to our champions, we do have 2 copies of Mechanorimon. This is a blocker. It can't attack, but on our opponent's turn, when this Digimon deletes an opponent's Digimon in battle and survives, we unsuspend it. So this is a great way to sort of deter a Rookie Rush. What I predict in the meta is that Gabubond and Agubond are going to be fairly popular, right? Especially the Rookie Rush variants. So I included 2 copies of Mechanorimon here just to sort of deter some of that early aggression. Next up, we do have 3 copies of Deputymon. On play, reveal top 4 cards, add 1 Digimon with 3 Musketeers in its type, and or 1 option card with a memory cost of 7 from among them. Then trash the remaining. Oftentimes I'll just get the Musketeer and then opt to, even if there's an option that I can grab, I'll just put it in trash just for Beelstar, but sometimes I'll get it depending on how the game's going at that time. But the other ability that this Deputymon has is that this Digimon can digivolve into a 3 Musketeer with a memory cost of 6, ignoring the digivolution requirements. So this is awesome because it can digivolve into any of our Musketeers for 6, but the primary one that we're looking at here is Gundramon. Next up for our champions, we do have Vilemon. This is our 2-cost Digivolve blocker. When attacking, lose 2 memory. The rationale, similar to what I said in the Dynaspawn deck from last week, is that 6,000 DP, it feels like a good hardy amount, whereas 5,000 for the 1-cost Devimon, it's a little weak. There's a lot of things that can kill 5,000 DP pretty easily. So wanted to keep it at 6,000, so I chose Vilemon. Next up, do have 1 copy of Ogremon, and it says on play, we can trash a card from our hand to delete one of our opponent's level 4 or lower Digimon. This honestly is just good aggression to have, plus I like Ogremon. We can hard play it for 5, which depending on how the memory board looks, could choke out our opponent. And we get to delete a level 4 while also triggering our Tsunomon. So it's kind of a win in a couple different areas, so long as we have the board to kind of support it. But that's why I also only have 1 copy of it. Next up, for our champions, we do have Kinkaku Promote, who does have Rush, and then on play, we can do all of that, but unfortunately, we don't have the Kinkaku or the Ginkakumon, so we're primarily only using it for Rush, and you'll see why in a bit. Next up, we do have 3 copies of Rebellymon. So when digivolving, and it can digivolve off of black or purple, so all of the champions that we have, Rebellymon can digivolve on top of them. But if we trash a card from our hand, this Digimon gains blocker and retaliation until the end of the opponent's next turn. And then on all turns, this Digimon is also treated as black. And so I use 3 copies here just because one of the other decks I'm sort of afraid of is Jesmon, and its ability to pierce. So if I can digivolve on top of it when my opponent goes into their Jesmon play, it gives me a turn, essentially. Because obviously, if they try and swing into it, sure, they'll delete my Rebellymon, but that thing has retaliation. That Jesmon would be destroyed as well. And then 3 copies is just so that I can stay consistent and actually see the Rebellymon when I need it. And then going into our other ultimate, we do have 1 copy of Skullgreymon. If it is trashed from our hand, by an effect, we get to place it under one of our purple Digimon, so we can, give some of our rookies retaliation, which is inheritable. We can give Vilemon retaliation, that way it's a permanent blocker retaliation combo. So it's just great with some of the effects that we have in this deck. And also, if you just happen to have it out on the field, it has a when attacking ability. We can trash a card from our hand to have this Digimon get plus 3,000 DP for a turn. So that is a 10,000 DP attacker, which is awesome. Alright, moving into our Megas, we do have 3 copies of Gundramon. So Gundramon is our secondary 3 Musketeer. He is a blocker, which is awesome, but has an awesome 1 Digivolving ability. So when Digivolving, we can reveal top 5 of our deck. We can use 1 option card with a memory cost of 7 among them without paying the memory cost, and then we trash the rest. Also, if we didn't use an option card with this effect, we do get to delete one of our opponent's Digimon with a play cost of 4 or less. At least it's not a useless ability if we don't find the option card. But being able to trash that whole entire stack means that we can get higher chances to see the things that we want to see in our trash for our Beelstar play. Speaking of which, we have 4 copy of Beelstarmon. So, when playing this card from the hand, reduce its play by 1 for each Three Musketeer Digimon card and option card with a memory cost of 7 in our trash. And as you'll see later, there's a ton of them. And then on play, we can return an option card with a memory cost of 7 from trash to hand, then use one option card with a memory cost of 7 from our hand without paying the memory cost. So what that means is you can have options in your trash that you'll use later. They can also be in your hand, because when you take it from your hand, you can use any option card with a memory cost of 7 from your hand. It doesn't have to be the one that you picked up. So there's a lot of utility here. And then finally, going into our level 7s, we do have 3 copies of Omnimon Zwart. When digivolving, we get to trash the top 3 of our deck. Then we can play up to 2 black or purple Digimon cards. That's a memory cost of 8 to play. And we can pay that without playing the memory cost. I know I read that weird. You know the effect. Zwart's been out for a bit. It's been pretty meta. But this is cool because we can play any number of our champions and our ultimates and our rookies, which is incredible. And a lot of them do have on-play abilities, which is not negated by this effect at all. So depending on where you are, you can, play the BT6 Impmon, get your Beelstar back, right? You can play Ginkaku Promote, which is a fantastic target. Rush in if it's still your turn. You can Mechanorimon for blocker, in case you're getting rookie rushed. And arguably, the best option for this is our Deputymon, because it can digivolve into any of the Three Musketeers on the next turn, right? Or if it's still your turn, it can do that this turn for 6. And then on play, you can look at the top 5 and then get a Three Musketeer. So there's a couple different options here. Speaking of options, let's head into our numerous options. And the first one we have here is Ultimate Flare, which you're probably wondering, hey, that doesn't have a memory cost of 7. You're right. I tagged Ultimate Flare in here because I think this particular Three Musketeers deck really struggles against Craniamon, because all of our kill spells that we have are delete. There's no DP reduction or anything, so Craniamon is impervious to any tactics that we do. So the best way to handle Craniamon is to de-digivolve it, and that's why I have Ultimate Flare here. Trigger de-digivolve 3 on one of our opponent's Digimon, and then delete all of our opponent's Digimon with play cost 3 or less. So most rookies. But yeah, that de-digivolve is strong. The only thing that could really not work out in our favor is if they had hard played a ultimate and then digivolved that into Craniamon. Because yeah, Craniamon still would be de-digivolved, but they can easily digivolve into another one next turn. But for the most part, it does cover that one major weakness that I see, because everything else we can kind of handle with some of our other options. Moving on, we have 2 copies of Schwarmer. Yikes, I'm so sorry for that pronunciation. So this is one of the 3 Musketeer options. So if we do have a Digimon with 3 Musketeers out on the field, we can use it without meeting the color requirements. But this one's cool. It is delete all Digimon with play cost of 7 or less. I will warn you, this also deletes your own Digimon with play cost of 7 or less. I can't tell you the number of times I've blown up my own board using this. Luckily, if you get it out of security, the security is add this card to the hand and not automatically use it. So that's pretty cool. But depending on the board state, this could be a great way to clear the board, especially if you do, a strong turn 1, turn 2 play of playing Deputymon, digivolving into Gundramon, and then being able to use Schwarmer from the top 5 that is revealed. And that Digimon, Gundramon, not affected by this. But yeah, I would say use it sparingly. Next up for our options, we do have 3 copies of Trump Sword. We get to delete one of our opponent's unsuspended Digimon. And then we have 3 copies of Fly Bullet. So once again, another Three Musketeers option, but this one says delete one of your opponent's Digimon that's level 6 or lower. So between these two options, there's some pretty good coverage for deletion. Fly Bullet, doesn't matter if it's suspended or unsuspended, level 6 or lower, get it out of here. Trump Sword, while it does have that sort of finicky, like it has to be unsuspended, it does cover level 7s, which is the other thing that this deck pretty much struggles against. There's no real good way, other than maybe swinging with Omnimon's Wart, to get rid of level 7s on their field. So if you have a Trump Sword and you see a level 7 unsuspended, just get it out there. Even if you have to hard play it for 7, it's totally worth it. And then moving on to our other options, we do have 2 copies of Nailbone. So this says we can play 1 purple level 3 and 1 purple level 4 from our trash without paying their memory costs, but no on play. So this is good because you can put Nailbone in the trash, play the Beelstar, and then play Nailbone, and you can start building up your board pretty quickly. And especially if you can play Beelstar for cheap or even for free, depending on how late in the game it is, which I've done in a number of the playtests I've done. You can summon Ginkaku Promote with this, and it has Rush, so you'd be able to attack during that turn, which is awesome aggression. Next up, we do have Happy Bullet Shiring. This is the third of the Three Musketeers options, and this says delete all of your opponent's Digimon with the lowest DP. If they're working on building a single stack and then pull it out, this works great because that is officially their lowest DP. Doesn't work so well in a go wide strategy if your opponent is going wide. So just be on the lookout. Try and see what your opponent is trying to do before using this. Or, if you need to delete something, just anything, this is the option for you. And then lastly, going into our tamers, we do have 2 copies of Mashita. So this is a memory tamer, which is awesome to have. But on play, we can return a purple Digimon card or purple option card from our trash to our hand. We're primarily using this to get our Beelstarmon back. If, for some reason Beelstar's in trash, use Mashita, get Beelstar back. And that is the deck profile. So I would say that the strongest element of this deck is its unpredictability, right? I think being able to keep your opponent on their toes and just not be able to read what plays you're doing is extremely vital for how to pilot this. I would also say, as soon as you get to maybe like 5 or 6 7 cost options, 3 Musketeers in your trash, slow down on the milling. But for a majority of the decks that you're going to encounter, this will do pretty well against them. But I'd like to know what you think down below. Do you think this is a pretty good deck list? What weaknesses do you see? What strengths do you see in this? I would love to hear what you think down below. If you liked the video, please give it a like. Subscribe to the channel for more deck profiles. We're probably going to do some more spicy content pretty soon, so be on the lookout for that. But overall, thank you so much for all of your support. BT6 has been extremely fun so far, and EX01 is on the horizon, so can't wait to jump into that. But awesome. Thank you again, and until next time, I'll catch you later.